leader in Pro-Am bass tournaments.
Hi, this is Ernie Daughtery, host of the Fishing Magazine television series. We're with Central Pro-Am Association in Northwest Arkansas for the year 2000 Beaver Pro-Am Bass Tournament. Who'll be the new title holders in a new millennium? We'll find out right after this.
The last of the famed White River lakes to be impounded, Beaver Lake owns a storied place in bass tournament lore. It was the site of the first modern bass tournament in 1967, and it's been a frequent stop on the Central Pro-Am Tournament Tour for over a decade. In the early years, it took nearly 30 pounds to win the Pro Division at Beaver, but by the mid-90s, the winner never exceeded 25 pounds, and the tournaments always went down to the wire. This is the first time Central Pro-Am has returned to Beaver Lake in 4 years, and the Pro-Am anglers are expecting the same type of hotly contested tournament this year. One thing is certain to be different, however. In 1996, Doug Garrett won with 23 pounds by pitching a tube bait into green buckbrush and shallow bushes. That won't be possible this year. Beaver Lake is 8 feet below normal, and all that vegetation is now high and dry. As a result, you can expect boat docks and standing pole timber to be fished heavily, especially up the White River. The morning of day one is cold and overcast. Earlier in the week, sunny spring days warmed the water rapidly and put lots of bass in shallow water. But 2 days of chilly rain have dropped water temperatures nearly 5 degrees. And what that will mean to the fishing is anybody's guess. Defending Pro-Am champion Troy Akins is out with the third flight, and he's doing what he does best, pitching his trademark brown jig around ledge rock and boat docks. Akins is coming off a remarkable year in 1999 when he captured the Central Pro-Am Triple Crown by winning a regular season tournament, the Pro-Am Championship, and Angler of the Year honors in one season. What's more, Akins has finished in the money in every Central Pro-Am tournament for nearly 2 years, and he's looking to extend that streak here. Jackie Davis, the winner of the Bass Pro Shop Fall Spectacular the previous November, is out to win a second straight Pro Division title, a feat accomplished only once before in Central Pro-Am history. The 32-year-old Davis has already won 5 Pro Division titles and is one of only a handful of Pro-Am anglers who've won more than $100,000 in Central Pro-Am tournaments. Today, Davis is fishing a brown jig in a creek arm where he caught fish during practice. But so far, his fish aren't biting after the weather change. Finally, Davis hooks a solid keeper under a ledge rock wall and brings it back to the boat where amateur partner Kevin Brusicki scoops it up with the net. Jason Christie is one of the emerging young stars of the Central Pro-Am Tournament Trail. Christie's never won a Pro-Am title, but the 26-year-old school teacher just keeps getting better. Christie's fishing crankbaits along Beaver Lake's rocky shoreline, and he's already well on his way to a limit. Finally, he hooks into a solid keeper, and if he can keep this up, he's putting himself in position to be among the Day 1 leaders. When the Pro-Am anglers return to Prairie Creek Marina for the Day 1 weigh-in, Steve Plank grabs the early amateur division lead with 6.35 pounds. But he's soon challenged by Chris Seiler.
All right, we're going to have a new leader in the amateur division with that kicker fish like that. Good job, Chris. Here we go. 8.95 pounds. That's the new leader in the amateur division in Big Bass, Chris Seiler.
James Brown tries to unseat Seiler, but comes up short with 7.4 pounds and settles into second place. Later, Steve Mitchell comes in with 3 solid bass that total 7.75 pounds to move in behind Seiler in the Day 1 standings. In the Pro Division, James Park gets things rolling with 9.2 pounds. A short time later, Mike Ferris comes to the scales.
$14,000 on the line right now. Here we go. Oh, here's a good sack of fish right here. Here it is, double figures, 12 pounds even. That's your leader right now, Mike Ferris. Say hello to him out there, Michael.
Kelly Power makes a run at Ferris's lead, but comes up a half-pound short. Right behind Power is Rick Culver.
Got a limit. All right, got a kicker fish and limit. That's got to push. Heck, you got almost half of that 12 pounds already made.
I got another kicker just like that.
Got another one like that. We got a new leader right now. Uh-oh, watch out. Beaver Lake pays off for Rick Culver. Here we go. 15.30 pounds. Get those 2 big fish out of there. That's your leader right now in the Pro Division, Rick Culver.
Later in the first flight, Jason Christie makes his run at the lead, but comes up short with 12.25 pounds. Then comes Ron Foss.
How many we got?
I got the limit.
Got the limit. Mr. Foss doing real well. That's one of the great things about Central Pro-Am Association. A lot of these guys fish in the amateur division for a couple, 3 years, learn a great deal, then make the move and fish for $15,000 in one tournament right here. Good job, Ron Foss. 12.05 pounds.
Kirk McClelland has a 5-pounder and 4 other keepers to move into the running with 11.95 pounds. But they all have to step aside when Toby Hartzell comes to the scales.
Oh, look at this sack of fish. Watch out. 18.20 pounds.
At the end of the first day, Toby Hartzell sits atop the Lunker Lure Pro-Am scoreboard with 18.2 pounds, giving him nearly a 3-pound lead over his closest Pro Division rival, Rick Culver. Jason Christie holds down third place with 12.25 pounds, but Ron Foss, Mike Ferris, and Bobby Rose are hot on his trail. In the rest of the top 10, Kirk McClelland, Kelly Power, Joe Gundel, and Lou Treat aren't far behind, and any one of them could still win with a good second day. In the amateur division, Chris Seiler is the first day leader with 8.95 pounds, giving him a narrow lead over Steve Mitchell and James Brown, while Troy Ayers and Steve Plank complete the top 5. In the rest of the top 10, it's tight all the way, as barely a half-pound separates Kyle Triplett in 6th place from Dale King and Jason Underwood, who are tied for 9th. Stay tuned for exciting Day 2 action. We'll be right back. It's now time for Bass Fishing My Way. Helpful hints from some of Central Pro-Am's top competitors. Brought to you by Daylight Donuts, the best donuts around. The last time Central Pro-Am fished Beaver Lake, 2-time Megabucks champion Doug Garrett emerged victorious fishing a tube bait, and he did it fishing his way.
What I was using is a salty gets it. It's a salt impregnated lure. It's a little heavier than most gets it, and it's a little thicker and a little tougher, and you can flip this thing on a 20-pound line because it's got some weight to it. I was using a 3/16-ounce weight. The lighter you use, the better off you are when you're flipping real shallow with the gets it. It gives the lure a lot of action. 3/16 is what I was using in this tournament. Most of the time I use a 1/8 ounce, but I couldn't do it because of the wind factor. And I'm going to show you how to rig this thing because a lot of people don't know. Just barely catch the corner of this tube bait, pull your lure down like this and rotate it around, and this little clip, you just snap it in place. And that holds your bait on your hook. Then you just come back here, stick the hook inside the first part of the body, then come back and gather it just like you would a worm in Texas Rig-It. I've just barely got the point of the hook started through, then we come back here and we just skin it. Right like that right there where the bait is nice and straight. It hangs straight and it's totally widless. Sometimes when you're fishing real heavy brush, you have to peg your slip sinker. But if you can make the real accurate cast, you can get by without pegging it. Without pegging it, what it does is when you flip it into a bush, your sinker falls down and then your bait is kind of suspending and it has the slow fall and it has a natural action to it. So if you can get by without pegging your slip sinker, you're better off. But if you can't, if you're having trouble getting it into the tight spots, then peg your slip sinker and that'll work for you.
On the morning of Day 2, the Pro-Am anglers are greeted with a surprise they hadn't anticipated. A heavy fog has enveloped Prairie Creek Marina. As the 7 a.m. takeoff time approaches, the Pro-Am anglers are anxious, not only because they're eager to get on the water, but because they know there are other tournaments on the lake. Anglers starting farther up the lake may not be shrouded in fog, and they would be first to the prime spots up the White River. But bass boats traveling in heavy fog can be a prescription for disaster. So Central Pro-Am Tournament Director Ernie Daughtery stands by his decision to delay takeoff until the fog lifts. An hour and 15 minutes later, the Pro-Am anglers are finally on their way. When Day 1 leader Toby Hartzell completes his run up the White River, he finds what he hoped he wouldn't find. Anglers from other tournaments already on his best spots. Hartzell won the Beaver Lake Pro-Am in 1991 when he was only 19 years old. Now, nearly a decade later, he'd love to win here again. But until the other boats leave his prime spots, he'll have to content himself with fishing the water that's available, regardless what various onlookers may think. Rick Culver is having no such difficulties. He's fishing around brush and rocks in coves on the north side of the lake, where the early spring water temperature is slightly higher than in other areas. Culver is dropping his spider jig vertically along the timber in 8 to 12 feet of water, and so far the strategy is paying off. If he can keep this up and Hartzell continues to struggle, Culver may be in position to win his first Central Pro-Am title. On day one, Ron Foss used a crankbait and a jig dragged across the bottom to rank among the leaders. Today, those patterns simply aren't producing. So Foss changes tactics and starts fishing a jig around boat docks in deep water. The change seems to be working, and by mid-morning, Foss is well on his way to a limit. Meanwhile, back up the White River, Toby Hartzell is still waiting to get on the bank he wants. On day one, Hartzell caught a 5-pounder and a 6-pounder on back-to-back pitches to the same dock. Those may have been the only big fish there, but Hartzell just wants a chance to find out for sure. Where he's fishing now, the strikes are few and far between, and all the bass too short to keep. Finally, Hartzell pitches back along a pontoon boat and gets the strike he's been waiting for. Unfortunately, the bass hits Hartzell's jig way back under the dock, and he must struggle to get the bass out. Hartzell knows that if he puts too much pressure on the fish, it might pull free. But if he takes too long, the bass could break his line amid all the angle iron around the dock. Patiently, Hartzell keeps the bass at bay and moves his boat close to the dock. Finally, he brings the bass out, and amateur partner Hal Gatewood scoops it up with the net. Bob Harder was in 11th place after the first day, and with Hartzell and the other leaders faltering, it could pave the way for Harder to win his first Central Pro-Am title if he can come through with the limit of solid bass. Harder's located bass holding on an unobtrusive swing in the White River, and he's continuing to catch fish. But they'll need to be bigger than these if he's to have a chance of overtaking Hartzell. When the Pro-Am anglers return to Prairie Creek for the Day 2 weigh-in, Larry McGlynn takes the amateur division lead with a two-day total of 9.2 pounds. A short time later, Steve Mitchell comes to the scales.
He was in the hunt to win one. He's got 2 bass today, 2.15 pounds today. Is that going to be enough to take over the lead? It is. 9.90 pounds, a new leader in the amateur division, Steve Mitchell.
Finally, Day 1 leader Chris Seiler comes to the scales.
Chris Seiler from Douglas, Kansas had 8.95 yesterday, and he's got how many today?
2 little ones.
Okay, so they got to weigh, see, 9.90. They got to weigh point something to win. Oh, they don't make it. Look at that. 3.60 pounds. Let's see what happens here. Let's do the math first. This is the part of my job I love. Mr. Seiler had a tournament win on Lake of the Ozarks. Was that the first term of the year?
Yes, it was.
And this is the first term of the year.
Yes, it is.
And you grew your beard, you shaved your beard right after that. You said, I'm not shaving it again until I win another one, right?
I probably won't shave it again because I want another.
If you win her here, 12.55 pounds, our new leader in the amateur division, Chris Seiler.
In the pro division, Ron Foss finally got his limit, and it's enough to move him into the lead with a two-day total of 19.3 pounds. A short time later, Joe Gundel comes to the scales.
How many you got, sir?
5.
Got a limit. Watch out, Ron Foss. We're getting ready to get it excited and warmed up here a little bit. They're going to have to weigh a little more than 8 pounds to take the lead.
It'll be close.
It'll be close. Joe's not going to step out on that line and say, I got him then. No way. Got all 5 of them counted. They're here. Oh, no, I think it's gone. We'll see. Well, it's going to be close. 8.35 pounds. Put your hands together. 19.60 pounds. A new leader, Joe Gundel.
Central Pro-Am veteran Lad Shannon has only 2 fish, but with a little help from his daughter, he might just challenge Gundel's lead.
How many we got? How many dads we got today?
1.
2. 1 or 2?
1.
5. Is that your final answer? Okay. All right. She's not going to call Dad on the lifeline. I can see that right now. 3.40 pounds for Lad Shannon. Thank you very much, sir.
Bob Harder's big fish never turned on, so he falls short of overtaking Gundel with 15.95 pounds. Then, Toby Hartzell comes in with only 4 bass, but they should give him enough to retake the lead.
Young Toby Hartzell right here. Your Toby won $35,000 last year with me at the Central Pro-Am Ranger Boats Anniversary Pro-Am Bass Tournament. He won his very first Pro Division title, his very first big tournament back here in Beaver Lake back in 1991. How many we got? 4 bass, 7.60 pounds. There we go. We got it running now. You got it, folks. Put your hands together. 25.80 pounds. That's your leader right now in the Pro Division, Toby Hartzell.
Finally, it's all up to Rick Culver.
How many we got?
Only got 3 today, Ernie.
3 bass today. Are they the same quality you had yesterday?
They're pretty good fish. They're probably close to 3 pounds. I don't know. Probably about 7 pounds, I think.
Let's see what we got here. Oh, man, it's going to be close, everybody. 8.30 pounds. Let's do the math here and see what happens. Oh, buddy, you talk about close. Did you have any others on today?
About 1:30, I dropped about a 4-pounder.
Oh, here we go. 23.60 pounds. That's second place.
It's official now. Toby Hartzell claims his 3rd Central Pro-Am title with a 2-day total of 25.8 pounds, outdistancing Rick Culver by over 2 pounds. But it's close from there on, as less than half a pound separates Joe Gundel, Ron Foss, and Jerry Weisinger. Jason Christie claims 6th place with 19 pounds to achieve his highest Central Pro-Am finish ever, while a quartet of Pro-Am veterans, Jimmy Davis, Lou Treat, Bill Beck, and Joe Bennett, complete the top 10. In the amateur division, Chris Seiler wins his 2nd Pro-Am title with a 2-day total of 12.55 pounds. Kyle Triplett nails down 2nd place, while Steve Mitchell, Steve Plank, and Larry McGlynn complete the top 5. In the rest of the top 10, James Brown leads the way in 6th place, followed by Steve Ryder, Mike Utzler, Mike Jones, and Larry Stevie. Stay tuned for tournament winning tips from Toby Hartzell. We'll be right back. It's time now for Tips from the Top, techniques you can use to catch more fish. Brought to you by Ranger Boats, where they still build them one at a time.
I was raised throwing a spinnerbait. My dad always taught me to throw a spinnerbait, and them days are done and gone. There's so many people out here fishing now. I just feel like that if I present something slower, more methodical, more continuous, that I feel like if I stay fishing, keep working the bait slow, that in a day's time, a person can get some bites on a jig. It's pretty much a go-to bait for me when everything else fails. That's what I'll have on. It don't matter if it's clear water, dirty water, or whatever. That's what I'll have on. I flip my jig probably in heavier cover than most people does. I take chances with it. I don't care if I lose one, and it happens quite often. But I do. I flip my jig probably in heavier stuff than the average person, and I will fish shallower than most people will too, flipping a jig, clear or dirty water. If a person's got some shade, don't be afraid to flip a jig, because they can very well be right there and you never know. I figured the fish out on Saturday during the tournament. It seems like these fish on this lake, they want a black. They like black crawdads for some reason. I don't know if the crawdads in this lake is black or what's the problem, but it seems like I'd try to flip the brown jig and I just couldn't get bit. With the black jig, I'd get bit 3 to 1, 4 to 1 compared to the brown jig. So I went to a black jig, black and blue jig, and brown and black jig throughout the whole tournament. The flats I was fishing, I always most generally had my boat in 7 to 8 foot of water, sometimes deeper, but most of the time where I caught my bigger fish, I was in 7 to 8 foot of water, and the fish come out of probably 3 to 4 or 5 foot of water, somewhere in that area. Now the creek channel blanks that I fished, I was sometimes in 15 foot of water and sometimes in 5 foot of water. It was just the creek channel was farther out away from the bank. The fish in the boat docks, and I really didn't flip too many of them in practice. I knew I would in the tournament, so there's no need for me to flip and get a bite that I could use in the tournament. So I pretty much saved the boat docks that I thought could produce fish. The ones in the boat docks, they hit it as soon as it hit the water. I think the lighter the jig, the better off you was.
Back in 1991, Toby Hartzell won his first major bass tournament right here on Beaver Lake with Central Pro-Am Association. You know, it looks like in the new millennium, history's repeating itself. Hey, thanks for being with us today, and we'll see you next week on the Fishin' Magazine television series.
The Fishin' Magazine television series is brought to you by Ranger Boats, where they still build them one at a time, so you can fish hard, run strong, and rest easy. Bass Pro Shops, where you get more outdoors for your money. Quantum and Motor Guide, the choice of serious fishermen. Rebel, Bomber, Heddon, Smithwick, and Cotton Cordell, America's favorite fishing lures. Riverside Lures, soft lures for serious anglers. Fishing hotspots, maps so good people ask for them by name. Pinpoint Network Fishing Systems, Lunker Lure and Hog Collar. Daylight Corporation, and Central Pro-Am Association, the leader in Pro-Am bass tournaments. For more information about subscribing to Fishin' Magazine or joining Central Pro-Am Association, call 1-800-349-5316 or visit our website at www.centralproam.com.